Hello and welcome to the Road Review Podcast Network. I'm Jay.
And I'm Wiley. Today we're talking about a deadly ICE shooting in Minneapolis that has the whole country arguing about what actually happened.
Minneapolis pilot is partly blocking a snowy residential street.
Let's say what we're going to do before we just start explaining.
This is going to be an objective timeline of what happened. So a Maroon Honda Pilot is partly blocking a snowy residential street. A truck with flashing light pulls up and stops. Federal immigration agents, ICE and DHS get out. Two agents walk to the driver's side.
There's a witness. There's a witness named Connor Janick-Skella that says agents were yelling at the woman in the Honda Pilot to move. But there's one agent that you can see in just about every video that tries to rip her door open, and he even reaches into the door, reaches into the window and tries to unlock her door. And then another agent is in front of the vehicle and is yelling, "Stop!" Wait. Okay, wait. While this is happening, another agent stands in front of the vehicle and he yells, "Stop!" But as she moves, after being told to drive by two witnesses, she gets shot. Or 3 shots are fired within around 1 second.
The Honda then hits parked vehicles and a light pole. Renee is unfortunately fatally shot, and the Minneapolis police chief, Brian O'Hara, says that there's nothing to indicate that she was the target of any law investigation.
Wait, where did you see this? Oh, you skipped a bunch of stuff.
Good.
In the time that she's being shot and everything, the driver, who's identified as Renee Good, she reverses as the man is grabbing into her window and trying to open the door, and as the agent who shot her steps in front of the vehicle. So she reverses, and then when she's told to drive, she starts turning right as if to leave, and it's at this point where it gets a little more controversial, and we'll talk about that.
Again, this is only just an objective timeline of what eyewitnesses and camera footage has shown us.
Yes.
So the agent that fired his shots, he pulled out his gun and fired as the vehicle moved forward. He shot through the window shield once and first, and then secondly, he shoots through the window twice. He kept shooting at the car as the move past him. He keeps shooting as the car moves past him. The agent, identified as Jonathan Ross, has been run over but survived in the past and was in the military and law enforcement for decades.
Okay. We'll just cut that. We'll replace stuff. All right. Once again, this is only what's observable from the video and things we know are true. There's another video taken from more of an aerial view that kind of show you can see a situation where he might have gotten hit. And that's where the two differing sides come into play. Okay. I'll start with the government story, and then Jay will talk about state and local officials. So Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that Renee weaponized her vehicle. She said it was an act of domestic terrorism, and that she was stalking officers, saying the agent used his training to save his life, and that those of his colleagues. The DHS spokesperson, that's Department of Homeland Security, Their spokesperson says that they blame sanctuary politicians for demonizing the officers, and saying that has fueled assaults on law enforcement. Our president, Donald Trump, on social media, both Truth Social and Twitter, says that she violently, willfully, and viciously ran over an officer. And that's very controversial, because you can see after he quote unquote gets hit or gets ran over, he is completely fine. He says an obscenity against the woman he had just shot, and he calmly walks over. He calmly walks over to her car and then walks back, saying to call 911. President Trump says the officer is recovering in the hospital, which, as far as we are aware, is not true. He never went to the hospital because he did not get an injury from getting hit, and we're not even sure if he got hit.
That is true.
He calls Renee Good had a wife, before she passed, and Trump says that her wife was a professional agitator, and that the shooting was self-defense, and the agent is lucky to be alive. Obviously, these are three people who are taking the side of ICE agents, which makes sense. They're in the government. I mean,
they kind of need to.
Yeah, they don't want to be wrong. Obviously, no one wants to be wrong. But what's important here is that we take a look at facts and things we know are absolutely true, and that anyone listening also does that. But before making their opinions based off of just what we say, they should do their own research.
Eventually you could start an argument, figure out something to object to, see if you could agree with our points. It's important to look into the facts first before you jump to conclusions.
Yes. All right, here's the state and local officials' story from Jay.
AKA the people's story.
That's not a people's story. It's just not.
Okay.
So don't say that.
So Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota says that he called the federal version propaganda, says the ICE operation was dangerous and sensational, so they're being reckless about how they were carrying out their procedure, and says this death was totally predictable and avoidable. He wants protesters to not take the bait. He claims that the federal government wants a reason to send troops, use the Insurrection Act, or declare martial law. He's trying really hard. He's claiming that the government is trying really hard to instigate something so that they can have an excuse to use military force to force people into submission.
That's really interesting, because that's basically what the federal government is saying about Renee Good.
Exactly.
It's two people villainizing each other, and it's hard from just not being there to know who to believe.
Yeah. So you just kind of have to take your side from what you see, or try to do as much research as possible. Yeah. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey says the federal account is garbage, calls it an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, and tells ICE to get out of Minneapolis. His language was very persuasive. I will tell you that. Something we can't really...
No, just say what he said.
Yeah. Tells ICE to get out of Minneapolis.
No, just say what he said.
That's it.
No, he says get the fuck out of Minneapolis.
Talking to high schoolers, what am I thinking? So, yeah, he tells ICE to get the fuck out of Minneapolis. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison says a lot is still unknown, which is true, and says that sending armed ICE agents is spreading terror through our communities. So how could people watch the same clip? Well, now there are two clips out there, but how could people watch the same clip but get two completely different reactions out of it?
Yeah, just based off of the first clip, it's like pretty much everyone who sees it, they think, they see what they see, and a lot of people also have pre-existing biases either for or against ICE and the people in Minnesota. And so it's really interesting. So how does that happen? How do people see the same exact video, even just the one video, before all the other videos came out? How did they see that one video?
And then we get two completely different views.
Yeah.
And this is the New York Times article that reported on this, described it as a political Rorschach. Just say the word. Rorschach test, meaning people are already primed to see what they want to see. If you're taking the side of Renee, then you're already primed to see her, brutally, harassed. Maybe not brutally, but harassed by ICE and wrongfully criminalized, along with her wife. If you're on the side of ICE, you're ready to see the agent get hit, with Renee not really caring like that, trying to escape, and him using self-defense. It's more like it really is primed for bias, almost. All right, so we've talked about a specific example of an ICE shooting that occurred in a more or less docile neighborhood, but now let's look at the bigger picture. So first, the Minnesota ICE operation specifically, the federal government calls this the largest operation to date in Minnesota. About 2,000 federal agents were deployed in the Minneapolis area.
2,000, dude?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
And then part of a national immigration crackdown to deport millions. It's also not just in Minnesota, too. It's also happening in North Carolina, where suspected immigrants are practically dragged out of their cars.
Yeah, suspected.
Yes, bro.
Suspected.
Dragged out their cars and then deported or beat. And then in Minnesota, they're focusing on undocumented immigrants, and especially some Somalis with final deportation orders.
Yeah, that was a big thing. Was Somalis in Minnesota.
Yeah.
It was that was their huge...
Which could more or less explain why ICE is focused on Minnesota.
Yeah, well, because they're the high Somali
population. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has the largest population outside of Somalia. Around 80,000 people of Somalia ancestry, and most are U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents.
Exactly. It's they really like to leave out that fact that most of them
are legally allowed to be here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The operation is partly justified by a big fraud scandal. Over 90 people have been charged with misusing social service funds.
Yeah, that was the thing with the governor, Tim Walz.
Yeah.
It was and that kind of gives some weird insight to the 2024 election.
Yeah.
Because he was running as Harris's vice president.
Yeah. And then prosecutors say hundreds of millions of dollars were stolen. So I see the partial justification. Suspicion needs to be up, but don't full on crack down the way you are.
I think the whole thing with the government scandal is our president hates the governor of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. He called him a slur.
Capital H. Hates with the capital H.
Yeah. He literally called the governor of Minnesota the R-slur.
So of course he's gonna obviously try and target him and his people.
Yeah, that's what the president does.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any actual reasons for most things. At least that's what it sounds like. That's how it seems to us.
Yeah. To us.
Yeah. To
the general population.
To Democrat teenagers in Aurora, Colorado.
Bro, yeah.
All right. So that's the big picture of ICE and immigration, but what's more specific is the ICE shootings. And in the last 4 months, immigration officers, ICE agents, have fired at least 9 people. That's what we know of, and that's across 5 states as well as Washington D.C. And at least 2 people have died, at least according to what we've seen.
Yes.
And that would be Renee Good, who is the main focus of this episode, and a man just outside of Chicago, Illinois, Silverio Villegas Gonzalez.
Close enough.
Yeah, I think that's how you say it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then in the Chicago area specifically, it's like with Gonzalez, it was the feds said that he dragged an officer with his car. And the New York Times, like they had a video of it, and that's very questionable.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, ICE and DHS police says agents could use deadly force only when there's an imminent threat of death or serious injury. So that more or less kind of sets up the background as to why agents would shoot. No intent to kill, but like more so to apprehend the subject.
Yeah, which is also not true. ICE doesn't have any. They don't have any like responsibility, or like they're not permitted by law to handle U.S. citizens.
True.
They are only supposed to handle undocumented immigrants.
Which checks out. Which also brings into question why he shot at Renee Good in the first place. He's not allowed to do that. Yeah. Even if he did get hit, even if the car did run over his foot, you're not allowed to shoot.
Exactly. It's a very horrible situation. I mean, like, yeah, they're doing things that are directly against the law, and
trying to justify it.
J.D. Vance, our president, said that Jonathan Ross, the guy who shot Renee Good, was protected with like immunity.
That's a shame, honestly.
I forget the...
I know what you're talking about. I forgot the name, too. But that's a shame.
Yeah.
Another point, too. Police also say officers should avoid putting themselves in a situation where deadly force is their only option.
Exactly.
Which brings up as to why in your right mind would you stand in front of the car?
Twice.
Bro.
He went in front of the car twice.
Walked away and then walked back in front. And there's so much nuance to this. All right, from multiple different aspects. So, however, there is a very, very slight chance that the officer could have possibly not seen the wheels move.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, in your peripheral vision, like, I feel like if he's close enough to the car, then you're probably going to see, like, the hood, windshield, but, like, nothing below. Like, nothing below. So that may or may not be a possibility.
Yes, it is really important to think of, like, anything that we could be wrong about. And that is one thing. It's like he might not have seen the wheels. Mm-hmm. It was heat of the moment.
Yes.
It was, for him, it was a very high-stress situation. But that is no excuse to pull out your gun and shoot someone in the head 3 times.
3, too. It's not like he shot once. He shot, got out the way, and then shot 2 more times from a completely different location.
Yeah.
So on top of it being against the law, like, that also eliminates the possibility of it being like instinct after the first shot.
Yeah. There was another thing there of, like, he was in a neighborhood, meaning he was not permitted to use his gun.
Yeah.
Like, that's it's against the law for police officers.
At least, like, there's way more. This also brings into the point, like, as to what you see in the video, because, like, if you came in with our kind of background knowledge as to, like, what's illegal and what's not, then you're obviously going to look and see, like, oh, what did they, like, look at everything that they did wrong versus all the potential possibilities that may or may not have given him an excuse, a potential excuse.
Exactly.
To do what he did.
And he's been trained and everything.
Yeah.
He knows what he's permitted and not permitted to do.
So.
Or at least he should be.
There are multiple different aspects to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after the incident, the community, which is also the neighborhood she lived in, was a very close-knit community. So this hurt the hearts of many people there. Yeah. So in Minneapolis, thousands attended a vehicle near the intersection where Renee was killed. People there carried candles and flowers and signs that included "ICE go home. Minnesota does not need more ICE. ICE in drinks, not communities." Which I like that one.
That's bars. There's
Yeah.
no other way to put that. And it's memorable, which is really good for just like the whole, getting it out there. It's,
Yes. Like, you got to make sure you get the point across.
To be clear, I don't like ice and water. My teeth are sensitive.
Ice and lemonade, then. Ice and he said they said ice and drinks, not community. So
Yeah. I just don't like ice in my community or in my drinks.
True that. And then later at night, the crowd shrinks to hundreds. People are quieter, holding candles, burning sage, and singing hymns. And then also, the day after the shooting, Minneapolis public schools canceled classes on Thursday and Friday because of safety concerns. So following the shooting, they were worried that their students and parents, for that matter, might not be as safe dropping their kids off or going to school. They needed to ensure the utmost safety.
And that's a really important thing because I don't think we've talked about it enough. ICE going to schools.
Yes, and then that's a lot too.
Yeah, well, that's unnecessary. Little kids aren't criminals.
Yeah, they're not bent on evil. There's no need to focus on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It also puts into perspective how much fear ICE officers, the government in general, can really instill in a community.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever happened to APS. Has it? There's snow closures. It's mainly been weather stuff for us.
Yeah.
I can't remember a time where, for safety issues, school was shut down.
There was one time many years ago, I don't know, in elementary school if you were in APS.
Oh, I was in APS.
There was one thing of like a lady said she was gonna shoot up some schools, and she died like a couple days later. I think by suicide. But yeah, no wait, school wasn't closed. School wasn't closed. We just had teachers like outside to make sure we're good.
Oh, okay. I don't even remember that event, but again, more points to think about. There's rarely ever been a safety closure for public schools, period.
I mean, there's been there's been too many lockdowns.
Yeah, a disturbing amount, but like the safety closure is the step up from the lockdown. So something else you might want to think about too. And here's just some insight on who Renee was. Full name, Renee Nicole Good, age 37. She lived in Minneapolis with her partner, had a 6-year-old child at the time, and her mother describes her as one of the kindest people I've ever known, loving, forgiving, and affectionate.
Her ex-husband also like backed that up.
Yes.
Her ex-husband was saying that she was like a great person, would never, antagonize law enforcement, which ICE is not.
Like, you gotta think about do some background checks or something. I mean, they did say she wasn't necessarily the primary suspect at the moment, the primary target, but it's kind of perceived that way once you have people like her ex, her current partner, the community, backing up the kind of person she was, her family. This had to hit hard for her entire family, and she had a 6-year-old at the time.
Yeah, well, there was a dog in the car.
I remember that. Yeah, sticking his head out the window.
There was a dog in the car, and like no one knows what happened to that dog.
Ugh, God.
Yeah.
There's too many lives affected by this.
Yeah.
No matter whose fault it is, actions have consequences.
Yes. That's about all we have for this episode. Obviously, we're limited on time. And so, in this longer episode, we just want to make a few things really important. Mostly about like videos and online, because that's been a big part of this controversy.
Yes,
is like, there's videos of it. And, a long time ago, there wouldn't have been videos.
Yes, so you just had to rely on the word of the people.
Yeah, life would have been very different if like O.J. Simpson's ex-wife had a camera in her house.
Video evidence of her. So you had to take. Back then you would have really had to take into account who the killer was, who the victim was.
Yeah.
Eyewitnesses. There's a lot more you had to think about versus well, just the video nowadays.
Definitely. And so, like, with this situation, the videos, you can see them and take your own opinion on what you think happened and what you see happened. And obviously that's not foolproof. There's two very different standpoints on the video.
Yes.
But what's most important is that you don't just listen to official statements. You need to look at things for yourself.
Yes.
And obviously none of us were there. We weren't in Minneapolis the other day.
All of this was just based off of hard copy facts. Multiple eyewitnesses. This is all reported.
Yeah.
News articles. This is all background research.
Yeah. Even news articles, though. Figure out anything you can before making
an executive opinion.
And so, and also, this happened about 5 days ago, I think. Yeah. As of the time we're recording this, happened 5 days ago. The facts are still being figured out. Only 2 days ago, the footage from Jonathan Ross was released. Yeah. Jonathan Ross again is the man who shot Renee Good. And we got to remember about politics. Political leaders are trying to define the narrative, make things as definite as they can because that's their job. Their job is to persuade people and to be a source of leadership. And so with our president Trump, it was she's a domestic terrorist and all this, and then
brought the wife into a professional agitator.
Yeah, and then with Governor Wald of Minnesota, he was saying that what the federal government was saying is propaganda, and
Yeah.
So
it just depends on who you are, and what your standpoint is on the situation in general. But I feel like you got to do your best to see the middle ground versus what you're primed to see. Don't try and fall for the status quo. If you do support the government and you do support ICE, try to find the middle ground first before trying to defend them right off the bat. And that goes for people in support of Renee, too. Yeah. You got to try and see ICE's side of the story, too.
That's what we did. Before recording this, we looked at the footage and tried to see
both sides.
Tried to see what Jonathan Ross's point of view could have been.
Yeah.
And that's really important. For us as journalists, that's extremely important. And for everyone else, as citizens and people who get to make decisions and vote for laws,
Yeah. Now, how does immigration have conversations about this? It's important to get other opinions and views too. To our point, you got to see both sides. You got to see the third person perspective. That would be our perspective, seeing the videos, the news articles, all the backlash versus having to actually be there in the moment.
Definitely. Having conversations is the most important thing when it comes to politics and pretty much everything else. Yes, get opinions. We're all people. That's the big thing, is we are all human. We all have opinions.
Y'all could clarify points together too. Yeah, clarify points. Discuss it, sort of like what we're doing.
Yeah.
Discuss it multiple different aspects to it before you just jump to your conclusion. You got to make sure you could have background evidence and, yes, other people's opinions, and two, to help clarify the nuances of your point while also back up your position.
And as hard as it may be, it's really difficult sometimes to try to respect people's choices. Or not respect people's choices, but respect their opinions.
Views. Yeah,
respect their views. And that's what's important. You got to do that, man. I mean, you don't have to. But you really should.
You got to at least try.
You really should. It's no way to live, to just live in anger and hatred,
Yeah.
And so that's just a little PSA from us before we say goodbye.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. My name's Jay.
And I'm Wiley.
And signing off.